You must accept that perhaps for a long time, you haven't been acting from your authentic self, but from unconscious programming. And from there, you gain the power to choose again, not from emotion, but from clarity. The journey of removing limiting belief doesn't require you to be perfect. It requires consistency. It demands enough courage to go against your old reflexes. If you believe you don't have a voice, then every time you stand up and speak, even with trembling, is a crack in the cage. If you believe you're not meant to lead, then every time you step up and take responsibility is a moment you rewrite yourself. And gradually, as these new behaviors are repeated, your brain begins to reshape the very belief system governing your entire life. You don't have to believe differently right away. You just need to be willing to place a question mark on what you once accepted as given. And every question mark is a blow to that invisible chain. When you realize you can live differently, feel differently, act differently, you've begun to separate yourself from the shadow of old stories. You weren't born to live in a cage. You were born to expand, to step beyond outdated patterns you'd never consciously agreed to. But to do that, you must dare to re-choose your beliefs, one root at a time. You can't change a belief just by thinking differently. Beliefs aren't formed through logical reasoning, but through repeated experiences deeply embedded in emotion. That's why, if you want to rewrite an old belief, you can't simply sit and imagine change. You must act as if what you now believe is true, and that very action, even if uncertain at first, becomes the first tangible proof for your nervous system that this new belief might be true. No one escapes old beliefs through thought alone. A person who believes, "I'm not worthy," can repeat positive affirmations hundreds of times, but if they continue to endure toxic relationships, stay silent when disrespected, or hide their voice, the brain will silently conclude the old belief is still valid. On the other hand, if that person dares to speak up for the first time, to walk away from where they're not respected, to take one small action that expresses self-worth, then those behaviors become new data for the nervous system to relearn a new definition of self. That's why action, even small, has the power to shatter beliefs that once felt permanent. A limiting belief isn't dismantled by forcing positive thinking. It is dismantled by a new reality created through lived experience. If you believe you can't speak in public, start by speaking to a group of 3. If you believe you're not worthy of love, start by treating yourself as if you are someone deeply cherished. These actions are not pretend. They're tools to rewire belief through real felt experiences. Your nervous system doesn't learn through words. It learns through repeated experience. Every time you act against an old belief, you carve a new path in your brain. At first, this path is faint, fragile, doubt-laced. But with every step you continue, it becomes clearer, stronger, and eventually solid enough to replace the old one. This is the essence of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, not through a single burst of willpower, but through deliberate, repeated action. You may not see the belief change in a day or even a week, but you'll see the difference in your gaze, in your posture, in how you walk into a room, in the decisions you make. You start behaving as if you already are a new version of yourself, even if deep down you're not entirely convinced yet. And that process of acting first, feeling later, is one of the most powerful tools to reprogram the subconscious, because the feeling will only follow once your brain has new evidence to process. Don't wait until you feel ready. That feeling may never come before you step outside your comfort zone. It only arrives after you've walked through doubt and survived it. Every time you do something that contradicts your old self, you're making a small break in the subconscious loop. And when enough of those breaks occur, the old default wiring begins to dissolve, making room for a new operating pattern. Rewriting a belief doesn't mean erasing the old completely. It's the process of overlaying a new layer on the old one until the new becomes strong enough, thick enough, and familiar enough to replace it. Just like changing a habit, you don't fight the old, you just keep choosing the new. And daily action is the lock-in for that commitment. You don't have to be bold, just consistent. A single conscious action repeated regularly, holds more power than 1,000 affirmations whispered into a life that still contradicts them. If you want to rewrite your deepest belief, don't begin with words, begin with a new choice in real life. Respond differently, hold your posture differently. Dare to say no, dare to ask, dare to step up, dare to stand still. And each time you do, take note, let your body feel that this new thing is safe, possible, and believable. Only when experience becomes evidence does the subconscious begin to allow a new belief to take root. You are not a victim of the past. You are the author of the present, and from there, the architect of the future. But the only language your subconscious understands is behavior. Behavior is the strongest statement you send to your brain to affirm the person you're becoming. So if you want to break an old limit, stand up, act differently, and let that action speak for you. You may believe you're living rationally, consciously making decisions based on awareness, but if you look more closely at how you react, love, avoid, procrastinate, or make important choices, you'll notice something worth reflecting on. Most of what you do doesn't come from conscious awareness, but from a deeper layer, what we call the subconscious mind. It doesn't require your thinking, your consent, or even your memory of the past. It only needs repetition. And it records everything like a script. Once written, that script will guide you like a hidden director, silently, persistently, and with remarkable effectiveness. The subconscious is a nameless dark space that stores forgotten memories, instinctive responses, absorbed biases from parents and society, and wounds you couldn't face. It doesn't argue with you. It simply executes. And the terrifying truth is, you don't have to be aware of it to be governed by it. If you've ever wondered why you keep repeating certain relationship patterns, why you sabotage good things, or why, despite great effort, something still seems to hold you back, the answer doesn't lie in the present. It lies in the unlit territory of your subconscious. She lies in summer. The subconscious works like a predictive machine. It learns from what you've lived, felt, and reflexively responded to, and from there it creates hidden instructions for you to act in ways that match familiar experiences. It doesn't care whether that experience is good for you. It only cares whether it is familiar. That's why many people live in pain yet resist change, because familiar suffering feels safer than unfamiliar joy. To the subconscious, familiar equals safe. Subconscious scripts often begin very early, even before you could speak. A cold glance, a careless scolding, a moment of abandonment are enough to shape your sense of self-worth. And those early impressions turn into beliefs, then habits, then fate. You don't know why you keep choosing the same kind of person to love, why you keep sabotaging yourself, or why you always feel not good enough. But deep within, your subconscious has cast you in the same role, acting out an old script you never wrote. The greatest challenge isn't overcoming the subconscious. It's that you can't change what you haven't recognized. And because the subconscious operates in the dark, the first step to rebuilding it is to illuminate it through non-judgmental observation. Every time you overreact to something small, every time an irrational fear surfaces, every time you feel like retreating, even when you know you should step forward, that's the signal of a hidden program running. If you can stay calm enough to observe without being pulled in, you begin to see the threads connecting the present all the way back to the deep past. The subconscious doesn't recognize time. To it, any experience, even one from decades ago, can still affect your current perception. You might be 35, wearing a collared shirt, working a professional job with education and status, yet the moment someone says something that touches an old wound, you instantly react like the child who once got ridiculed in class. Not because you're weak, but because that subconscious part of you was never healed. And every current experience becomes a stage for the unresolved past to play out again, waiting for you to end the story differently.